we would like to, through the presentation of some examples, we will try to express some reflections on the main challenges and opportunities that environmental agreements could bring. Next slide, please. So this will be the content of the presentation. Next, please. And first, as a general overview and in connection with the previous presentation, we can say that first, to achieve the ambitious goals set by the Green Deal, all policies have to contribute and try to do it in a consistent way. And this is also the case of the common agriculture policies that particularly have to integrate the farm to fork strategy targets. And in that sense, cooperation, collective action, and agreements between actors in the agri-food supply are very important. So for that, the new CAP, to reinforce these collective actions, the new CAP includes several tools and mechanisms, among others, some amendments of the Common Organization of the Market Regulation, as we have seen. At the end, the main aim is to ensure that the application of competition law in the food chain contributes more clearly to meeting environmental challenges. Next, please. Well, what do we mean by collective actions around sustainability? Next. Next, please. Yeah. Well, first, we can answer ourselves collective action between whom, as we have seen. We are talking about horizontal agreements between several operators that are or can be potential competitors, but also we are talking about vertical agreements between operators at different levels along the food chains, production, processing, trade, distribution. Next, please. Secondly, we can ask ourselves who is promoting this agreement, these collective actions. We can see that these collective actions can be promoted by recognized producer organizations or in the framework of interbranch organizations. But also this action can be derived from the interrelation between agri-food actors and other actors such as universities, research centers, labs, NGOs. Well, in all the cases, we appreciate that public administration has a decisive influence through regulations, guidelines, and different programs and initiatives in promoting these collective actions. Next, please. Well, thank you. We can also answer ourselves for what these collective actions are promoted. No? And well, they can be promoted first to enable action, given that certain actions can only be addressed in partnerships or in collaboration. But also these actions can be promoted to achieve better results or to have a better achievement of our objectives, and also, well, to achieve common strengths in order to remove barriers or obstacles to the achievement of our goals. As we are talking about collective actions around sustainability, we refer to those actions that are going to help us to better achieve all these environmental objectives. We could establish various classifications of this kind of collective actions, such, for instance, if we focus on what is the main objective of these actions, we will find the ones that are addressed to improvement of health and environmental conditions of productions, but also the ones that are focused on logistics, commercialization, or distribution, or more general in the promotion of healthy, safe, and sustainable food. Well, next, please. Now we will present some examples of collective actions around sustainability. These are not intended to be exhaustive, but only a sample of what is happening right now, no, in the agri-food chain. Next, please. First, we will start with those actions that are promoted by producer organizations, such, for instance, cooperatives, that can really play a key role in the process of ecological transition in the agri-food sector, given that they could allow more efficient management of initiatives or investment. They could coordinate and have a coordinated planning role, or in the promotion of collective investment. We have also the specific role of recognizes producer organizations or associations of producer organizations that can also benefit from some exceptions from EU competition rules for certain activity. As for example, they can do the aggregation of the production of small producers in order to fix fair prices. And also they have access to EU funding within the operational programs. And in that programs, some actions related to environmental actions are always included. We have here several examples between all of them. For instance, we have that example of that has been implemented in 4 member states: Italy, Portugal, Spain, and France. That it has the aim of improve the accessibility of cooperatives to energy efficiency and renewable efficiency. Are also several examples implemented by this recognized producer organization, and that one in Poland, where they have improved the quality and health of apples by reducing reuse of plant protection products using ozone technology. Next, please. Another specific case is the action promoted by interbrand organizations, that are these organizations made up of representatives of economic activities linked to production, trade, processing of products, and distribution, and that have between all their aims the aim to promote the rationalization and improvement of production, carrying out research activity on sustainable production and market development. And well, in the framework of this organization, several sustainability collective action has been developed, and we can highlight here that there is the existence of this key instrument, the station of rule, and with these mechanisms, the agreements of these organizations could be extended to all the sector, to all the producer of the sector. That agreements can occur around rules that allow for an improvement of the environmental or a greater sustainability. We can find here an example in that sense. Next, please. But also we found that the consumer demand is driving the development of various types of certifications and labeling to differentiate products, attributes, and also in terms of sustainable practice for the production, and well, horizontal and vertical collective actions are driving to respond to this demand. That is the case of certificates promoted by distribution. There are several different certificates that involve agreements between producers and distributions, as for instance, global GAP based on good agricultural practice for producers, or SPRING based on water management. We can have several. In that sense, we found also the quality schemes promoted by EU level, as for instance, certificates of origin as protected designation of origin or protected geographical indication. Another voluntary certification is at national level, or those run by private operators that can also help consumers to be confident about the quality of the products they choose. As for instance, all the different kind of of labeling linked to sustainability as organic products. Next, please. Here we can find also several examples, as for instance that one in France, C'est qui le patron. We are talking here about an initiative promoted by consumer that had created a brand that aimed them to control their food. Their food is healthy, sustainable, and it has fair trade products. Next, please. Right now, my colleague Gema is going to continue with some other agreements between agri-food chain actors. Gema, please.
Yes, thanks. Other types of agreements or collaborations that we can find are those related to research and development, where producers or food industries can cooperate with research centers to improve production processes, including more environmentally friendly processes. For example, we find breeding agreements to get crop varieties which are more adapted to climate conditions or more resistant to pests and diseases. We also find cooperation under Horizon 2020 projects and under operational groups, pursuing different objectives, such as those ones addressed in these examples, like the improvement of animal welfare in the German case, the preservation and spread of all varieties which are more adapted to the environmental conditions, like the example in Italy, or the improvement of the competitiveness, including organic production and zero residues, which is the case of the cherry production in Spain. Another way of collaboration between actual or potential competitors is the information exchange in the shape of raw data or data that has already been processed to generate relevant information for producers. And one example is this smart farming project in Ireland, where producers collaborate using on-farm sensors from which they obtain real-time data, and this is analyzed to use it to support the joint creation of new food products and new food tourism products and enhance sustainability performance. Next, please. Other agreements related to logistics and distribution are food hubs, for example, which can connect producers with institutional buyers like restaurants, hospitals, schools, etc., and then consumers. And they help farmers to gain access to larger markets so that they can concentrate more on farming and less on marketing and distribution. There are also initiatives involving the implementation of short distribution channels. And also we find very interesting the inclusion of sustainability requirements in public procurement, such as local food or organic food in school canteens or nurseries. And other agreements linked to digitalization or of logistics or shared transport are around. We have, for example, the Estonian food program, which is encouraging these short supply chains that we have mentioned, and it's seeking to strengthen cooperation. Agricultural holdings are receiving support for participating in quality schemes, local markets, and short supply circuits, as well as for participating in producer groups and organizations. And also we find very relevant the role that local action groups can have, like this case of Pays de Contrus, where farmers and consumers associate to improve food safety and access to local food, including an incubator for market gardens and the setting up of local canteens offering organic local food. It's one example of these food hubs. Next, please. And finally, we are going to highlight some challenges and opportunities that we have identified regarding the development of sustainability agreements in the current context. Please. Next one. Among the challenges, one of them is how to demonstrate benefits of an action when those benefits are difficult to quantify, and how to demonstrate efficiency gains in those cases. About the condition that users of the products are allowed a fair share of benefits of the agreements. What if the benefits are intangible? How do we deal with that? When a specific agreement leads to reduced environmental impact against an increase in the production costs and price, the increase of the price for the consumer does not compensate the reduction of the impact for those consumers, but they affect the society as a whole. So this is another situation where we have to see how to deal with it. Then when agreements involve additional costs to attain environmental objectives, how to compete with conventional products. And in this case, we address the willingness to pay for sustainability standards that go beyond legal requirements and the options of internalizing costs versus increasing price. And in this regard, initiatives aiming to improve animal welfare do not have a direct positive impact on consumers, let's say. So how can users be allowed a fair share of the benefits achieved in these cases? And finally, how to balance price distortion with environmental impacts? To what extent should we relax competence rules which will affect price for environmental benefits? Next, please. And then finally, we find that cooperation offers some opportunities to advance in sustainability objectives. For example, for small producers, cooperation might be the only way of shifting to more sustainable production. It provides the possibility to access to research or new technologies through collective action. In the case of vertical cooperation between producers and retailers, that can be the way to give visibility to more sustainable products, getting the message across to the consumer and acting on their willingness to pay. There's also the possibility of this vertical cooperation between producers and industry that can be the way of promoting the use of products or production methods which have royalties and are not accessible to small producers. And finally, we find that current regulation developments can support these cooperation actions through the explicit incorporation in the regulation that could facilitate the process and reinforce collective action around sustainability agreements in the food chain. Next, please. And well, these are the examples we found, and we hope you find them interesting. Thank you.